So Kirishima's Unbreakable form finally made its debut in the anime, and today we're going to examine just how strong it actually is. Though just as a warning, in order to do this we're going to have to cover some content that hasn't yet been seen in the anime, so if you really want to avoid any spoiler, then I would advise just going on my channel and checking out some of the other spoiler-free stuff that I have. Okay, so Unbreakable is Kirishima's new super move, and it was partly the result of the extensive training he did before the hero licensing exam, but also due to the fact that All Might gave him a bit of cool advice. And people say All Might isn't a good teacher. Come on guys, give the man his credit. But before we fully examine Unbreakable, however, let's just lay the groundwork regarding his quirk, although you probably already know this. So as I'm sure you're aware, his base quirk allows him to harden his body into a state that is not only strong enough to deflect bullets, but is arguably tougher than steel, given that he was evenly matched in a fight against this maniac. The areas that he hardens become very jagged, which is why his first name, when written in Japanese, contains the kanji for cut and for sharp. His base quirk is also good for close combat, although there is a limit to how long he can remain hardened, which is kind of what we saw in the sports festival when he was fighting Bakugo. He was in that fight worn down. Despite this, by nature his quirk does favour a more defensive fighting style, as he's essentially explosion proof and bulletproof whilst his quirk is active. But let's move on to the reason why you clicked on this video. How strong is Unbreakable? So Red Riot Unbreakable takes his quirk to a new level, and as we saw in the anime, he can literally harden every crevice of his entire body. That includes his eyes, his teeth, his hair, and whatever he's got going on in his pants as well. And the main benefit of this move is that not only is it significantly harder, but he essentially becomes indestructible, at least for about a minute. This means that he can nullify virtually any attack that's thrown at him. In fact, I reckon he could probably withstand a punch or two from this guy. And we saw this demonstrated in the show when that villain was easily piercing his skin before he used Unbreakable, but then once he turned on Unbreakable, suddenly that villain couldn't even touch him. And whilst he can't hold it for too long right now, remember that Kirishima is still a first year student, so by the time he graduates, I reckon he could probably have it up to about 10 minutes or more. And unlike his usual form, this Unbreakable mode should not wear off based on the number of hits he's taken. At least that's what we thought. Those of you who have read even further in the manga will know that this form was pretty effortlessly destroyed by Rappa in one of the best fights of the overhaul arc. And for me, this kind of took away the amazement at seeing Unbreakable for the first time, because it kind of hurts to see it be destroyed so easily. But to Kirishima's credit, he did still put up one hell of a fight by continuously rehardening himself after getting worn down. But the fact remains that Unbreakable was still beaten down by Rappa. And let's be real here, Rappa is a strong villain, but he is by far he is not nowhere close to being the strongest villain we've seen in My Hero Academia. So if he can do that, imagine what an actual boss villain could do. And then we have to move on to the joint training arc with Class 1B. Kirishima in this arc was again taken out quite quickly despite being in Unbreakable mode. This guy from Class 1B, whose name I don't actually know, basically just picked Kirishima and threw him up in the air. And I know, the quirk is called Unbreakable, not Unthrowable, but still, the fact that he can just pick up Kirishima and not start bleeding, because remember, Unbreakable is super jagged, so the fact that he wasn't like, ow, this hurts, or wasn't bleeding or anything like that, it just made it seem like Unbreakable didn't do anything. And then of course, after he threw Kirishima in the air, Ibara of Class 1B just used her Vine quirk to kind of like wrap Kirishima up and throw him in the cages. So during that whole interaction, whether he was in Unbreakable mode or just using his normal hardening, it didn't really make a single difference. So whilst this super move does have many advantages, people with quirks that allow for long distance attacks, or someone like Rappa or Deku, whose attacks can just be relentless, Unbreakable can be worn down. I came across a Reddit post that definitely resonated with my thought process. It said that Kirishima's quirk makes his fighting ability very situational. So if an enemy is out of range, or if the battle is going on too long, he's just not able to keep up. And while we all love Kirishima, I gotta say that if I was gonna give his Unbreakable move a rating out of 10, at this point I would have to give it a 6.9. Like, it's above average for sure, but it needs more practical applications. It's just too situational. Like, the conditions have to be right, as they were in episode 5 of season 4, for it to, you know, stand out. But anyway, that's just my opinion. Let me know what you think of Unbreakable. Am I being overly harsh here? And that, my friends, was us examining how strong Red Riot Unbreakable is. And before you go, be sure to check out my My Villain Academia explainer video. It's one of my favorite videos that I've ever done, and subscribe for more My Hero Academia videos, as I'm aiming for 500 subs by the end of 2019. Peace.